We're just about 5 months away, guys, from the iPhone 15's releasing, and I'm back today with a new episode of the latest leaks and rumors for the devices, as well as some exclusive renders that you absolutely will not find anywhere else. We're actually really proud of this latest batch, and I think it gives you the world's best look yet at what the devices are going to look like, the new titanium, the thinner bezels, and I guess we should actually start there with the thinner bezels because Apple is about to break a record with these actually. According to a tweet from Ice Universe, the iPhone 15 Pro Max is going to now have the thinnest bezels of any smartphone ever made, beating the record currently held of 1.81 millimeters by the Xiaomi 13. On the iPhone 15 Pro Max, we're going down to just 1.55 millimeters on the bezels, which is actually legitimately insane. We've tried to do our best job to show these in the renders, but I don't think it's going to actually translate until you see this sitting in your hand. Because looking at the bezels on the iPhone 14 Pro, for example, they sit at 2.17 millimeters, which is already nuts, and doing a almost 30% reduction to 1.55 and breaking the world record is something that I don't think any of us were expecting for the 15s. To be fair though, this is coming at an actual cost to us because for the second or the third time this year, already we're hearing that the iPhone 15 Pros are going to be increasing in price. This latest report comes courtesy of analyst Jeff Poo, who, to be fair, does not have a great track record, and by itself, I would not believe this. But considering we've heard this multiple times, I do think it's happening. And listen, I'm fully aware that we've heard this every single year up until this point, and it hasn't happened. The iPhone 10 got a price raise to $999 in 2017, and the Pros have started at $999 ever since then. And listen, this might be controversial, you might call me an op for this, but I don't actually think that the price increase is unjustified at this point. Listen, I don't want to see a price increase, I don't want to see the phones get more expensive, but the demand for the Pros at $999 this year in the market has been absolutely banana pants. So is Apple looking at that and asking, can they raise $50 to $100 and see the exact same demand? Of course they are, right? They're trying to optimize their business. And to be fair, Samsung and others have had prices well above $1,000 for their highest end phones for years now. Again, not saying it's right, just saying I wouldn't be surprised if the iPhone 15 Pro starts at $1,099 in 2023. I think another big part of this increased cost is going to be the new buttons on the iPhone 15 Pro, and we've gotten some really good news about not only how these are going to work, but the additional functionality we're going to be getting, which is something I've been speculating about for a while now. Starting off with this fresh CAD file that seems to be an updated version than what we got initially, because in this CAD file, the buttons are fully illustrated, including number one, we've got a unified volume bar. So they're not going to be individual buttons anymore. You're going to get haptic feedback when you press either the top of this bar or the bottom. Or alternatively, I've heard some rumblings that this volume bar might work via swipe gestures, very similar to how volume works on AirPods Pro 2, where you swipe up or down to control the volume, which actually sounds most realistic to me because swiping down, you could get a precise adjustment rather than having to click a button 7 times in one position, which honestly feels a bit antiquated. The second more interesting part of this CAD file though is how Apple is completely removing the mute switch, and it's now going to be a mute button, which I've seen a lot of people absolutely lose their mind about. But if you think about it, how often are you switching your phone from silent to mute? For me, I do it maybe once a year, and it's when I get the phone, I put it on silent. And listen, if this is going to be a big deal for you, Apple is keeping the traditional volume buttons as well as the traditional mute switch on the standard iPhone 15 and iPhone 15 Plus. So there will still be an option in this year's lineup if you're feeling something more traditional. Seeing this mute switch for the first time though, it got me thinking, if this is now going to be a new button rather than a switch, couldn't it potentially be remapped to other functions? Like what if this was similar to the action button on the Apple Watch Ultra? And I kid you not, a few days later, we got this crazy report. An anonymous Apple insider who's been pretty active on the Macroverse forums and was the first person in the world to give us a days in advance look at the dynamic island before we knew what the dynamic was last year. He's returned recently with a ton of information about exactly how these buttons are going to work, including that new mute button at the top is actually being referred to internally by Apple themselves as the action button on the iPhone 15 Pros. And on the forums, this person confirmed that the iPhone 15 action button will be user remappable, just like the button on the Apple Watch. You'll be able to make it go to the flashlight or the camera or do an automated shortcut if you want to set it to that. Which is so cool that after all this time, Apple is finally giving us a user customizable button on the iPhone, a dedicated button at that, not just like another functionality for the side button. This is so cool. This is the biggest news by far that I've seen in the past month about the iPhone 15, and it shows that people love the action button. So Apple's bringing it to the iPhone. Now, before moving on any further, I do want to say a huge thank you to ClearVPN for sponsoring today's video. It's made by my friends over at MacPaw, and it is by far the most beautiful VPN I have used today. VPNs, of course, keep you safe and protected online by routing your traffic through secure servers, and it's something that I use every single day. And again, unlike the others, there's a focus on the UI here, so it's really usable and enjoyable. They've broken down the app into 3 key areas. First of which is the secure browsing mode, and this is free for all users as Clear VPN sees privacy as a fundamental human right. The next 2, which you get by going premium, allow for selecting a specific location to browse from and the ability to access geo-block content from streaming services that you normally can't get where you live. Clear VPN has won different cybersecurity awards and was developed by the cybersecurity award-winning and certified company MacPaw, who also makes Clean My Mac, which is one of my favorite apps of all time. And to get you guys started, Clear VPN offers a free premium trial for 3 days, and then using my link down below, you can get 3 months for just $10 when you use code AppleTrack. Premium plans start at just $3.50 a month, which is less than the cup of coffee that's probably sitting on your desk right now. So click the link below. Clear VPN is the VPN you'll love using. Thanks to them for sponsoring. Now back to the video. Now, just as excited as I am about these buttons, I've also seen a lot of concern from you guys about how these are going to work exactly. Like if your phone dies and there's no battery and these are no longer physical buttons, they're software controlled, how will you turn on your phone again? According to the same Apple insider, Apple's actually thought about this quite a bit, and they have designed in the most Apple way ever a new low power mode for the phone. When your phone dies, there's still going to be a set amount of reserve power in the phone to make it work. Now on the iPhone 14 Pro currently, for example, there's already a low power mode that enables you to find your iPhone via Find My even after it's dead, but this is a new version of that with new hardware that extends it by a significant amount of battery life. So it sounds like many hours after your phone has died, it's going to be not only findable still, but the buttons will still work 100%. The second big concern that we've heard about these buttons though is how they're going to work with third-party cases. And the same Apple insider also has an answer here, apparently saying that Apple is going to allow for sensitivity adjustment. So obviously if you're touching it directly, you don't need it to be very sensitive at all, and if you're pushing it through a case, you would need that sensitivity to increase quite a bit. Apple's thought about this as well, which makes sense. Apple knows that thousands, millions of people are going to use their phones in a third-party case. They're not going to make you use a phone with buttons that don't work, so Apple's figured that out as well. And after seeing these 2 reports from this super credible source who clearly knows a lot about the phone, I'd say I have no qualms. I don't know what that means, but it sounds like I'm doing good with the button. Genuinely, I think the buttons sound good. I think they're going to be a huge net positive, and I'm very excited about these as maybe the most interesting part about the iPhone 15. Next up, we've gotten some new information about the dynamic island on the iPhone 15 series. We've known for a while that it is coming to all models, including the non-pros, for the first time ever, and now we've got a new report from Guomin Shi that Apple is going to update some of the architecture here. As of right now, the proximity sensor that detects when you hold your iPhone up to your ear, it sits right below the dynamic island, and Apple's even shown us super transparently where it sits. It's just below the left quadrant, and they've got an illustration that you can see on screen. Apparently this year, Apple's found a way to directly integrate it into the dynamic island, so it's no longer going to hang below, and it sounds like the size of the dynamic island is going to remain the same still. Based on Guo's wording here, it could get ever so slightly larger or ever so slightly smaller, but it looks like visually it's going to be almost identical to how it is now, which is pretty sick. What I don't think people are going to call sick this year for the iPhone 15 is Apple removing the SIM tray in additional countries, including France. We recently got a report from Mac Generation, which is a French Apple blog, that says in France for sure and likely in other countries around the Europe region, Apple is removing the SIM tray because Apple already did this in the United States. The iPhone 14 Pro in my hand, it doesn't have a SIM tray, it's eSIM only. And honestly guys, I remember thinking this was going to be a huge deal when it happened last year, and I have noticed zero quality change between having a physical SIM tray and not. I mean, the eSIM is kind of convenient, I won't lie. That being said, it's convenient for me in the US where there are 3 carriers. That is it, and you basically get one and stick with it until the day you die. In Europe, when people are traveling between countries and they're all different carriers and it's like a matrix kind of deal over there, I don't think that's going to be good for folks over there. And if you are a Europe user, like, let me know down below in the comments how many carriers you have, because I've heard some people have 3 or 4 different plans depending on how much they travel around Europe, which blows my mind as an American. And listen, I know Apple doesn't have the balls to do this globally yet, but it's clearly something that they want. I don't exactly know why. I know that freeing up the SIM tray will give you more space internally. For other things, if it's eSIM only, and again, I've been fine with it, but I do miss it sometimes. It'd be nice to just pop a SIM in my phone. All right, moving on from that, I've actually been surprised at the lack of information we have about the iPhone 15 Pro cameras, and we're kind of just hearing the same thing in this new report from Guomin Shi, that Apple is planning to bring the all-new Periscope zoom lens this year. But that lens is going to be exclusive to the most expensive iPhone, the iPhone 15 Pro Max. The standard 15 Pro is not going to get the Periscope zoom lens, which is somebody who uses the standard Pro size. Man, I'm already salty. I'm so salty about this. And I hate the fact that it probably means that this year I'm going to finally bump up to the Pro Max size, just because the Periscope zoom lens giving you potentially 10x plus of optical zoom is something that I've wanted. You're gonna be able to get insane detail from far away with the iPhone camera system. And listen, I'll say it, Android's had this feature for a while and it's cool, although I just hope Apple doesn't fake the moon photos like on Android, because that is legitimately one of the silliest things I've seen Samsung pull actually in their history, and they've done a lot of stupid shit. All right, guys, rounding out this video, last story of the day is that the Elec has reported that Samsung will be starting production of the iPhone 15 OLED panels about a month earlier than they normally do. I only bring this up to say that this means nothing for us, so don't look at this and say, oh, the iPhone 15 is coming out a month early in August or 2 months early in July. Absolutely zero chance that's happening. This is just an internal supply chain logistics thing for Apple, and just wanted to make that super clear because it's easy for stories like this to get turned into iPhone 15 releasing early, and it's not. It's coming out in September. As always, September 2023 for iPhone 15. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and all the insane renders. Huge thank you to my boy Shay over at Concept Central as always. He is the absolute GOAT. If you have not subscribed to his YouTube channel, you are missing out because he posts some of the coolest concepts in the entire world right now. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. You are the absolute best. I love making these videos, and I'll talk to you all in my next video. Peace.